Hello, welcome back to another video on the All Dale Aren't We YouTube channel. There's just a few topics I wanted to talk about tonight, actually, circulating around the football club at the moment. Individual things such as the players, management, the board, to highlight a few. The one I really wanted to fixate on just now is the management style that's been going on around the club this season. It has been nothing short of embarrassing, really, if I'm being honest. You look back to last season, which does actually come into effect of what's happened this season. We had a turgid, quite poor end to the season last year under Stockdale. For me personally, he didn't really warrant have an opportunity to stay at the football club any longer. Going on from that, the summer transfer window, he should never have been given that opportunity, in my opinion. Hadn't really proven his worth throughout the summer. Things hadn't been going well, as I say, poor end to the season, but he was given a full transfer budget to work under. Season obviously started very poorly, and I think fans were rightly so straight on his back when results weren't going our way, but I don't think it was purely just that. I think it was the identity of the football and what we were playing on the pitch. I think people had already seen enough very early on. So obviously, as I say, the board made a quick decision, whether it be right or wrong, to fire Stockdale from his position. We then spent 2 weeks of the season without a manager, which I think's really poor within itself. In a position that we were in, we should have already been looking at lining up potential names. But we struggled to get anyone through the door due to these circumstances surrounding the club that's been going on the past few years. We managed to eventually bring in Jim Bentley, but prior to that, Jim McNulty, who's now manager again now, took over for a brief period of time, and he couldn't do anything really to steer the ship in the right direction. I think there was a sense of optimism when Jim Bentley came in, a manager that had been at the foot of the table, worked at Morecambe, worked within similar parameters of what Rochdale can do, similar budgets, very similar clubs in most ways. He wasn't the most astounding of appointments for me personally, but I think we all just wanted someone who could kind of fit the mould of what we needed at that time. Obviously, names had been floated around prior, John Artell, John Askey, names of that calibre that I think excited a lot of fans, but none of it came to fruition, and obviously we ended up with Jim Bentley. Looking in hindsight, he's just a play it safe manager, but for one reason or another, he's coming this season. I will give him some fairness to it all, that he didn't really have much an opportunity when he came in to stamp his own mark onto the team, and things may have been different at this point now if he'd have come in and had that summer period to work on the club. But obviously he didn't afford that luxury. Things started relatively well with him. I think we were hopeful, given the first early results, that we could see a bit of a transformation and kick on and get ourselves out of this position and go and have a potentially successful season. Obviously none of that's bared any fruition, and we've had dour results throughout the season, very negative style of play. I think you could tell by Bentley's interviews towards the end that he was really starting to get worn down with it all. I think it was quite physically affecting him outside of his workplace, taking it home with him as well. Listen, obviously we all know now that he's been sacked, and I do wish him all the best in the future on and off the field. I'm sure someone will take a punt on him again, and he will suit somebody. But for us, it was a poor appointment. As I say, has not been able to galvanise these players at all to get any form of consistency on the pitch. We've had, spotted results here and there, but as I say, never backing anything up. I know I've spoken about it a few times on the Spaces. Really, really poor stat concerning the club. You look at our runs in previous seasons. The last time we managed to put three results together was 3 wins together was under BBM. And prior to that, again, it was BBM earlier in that season. And then if you want to go back to even see a remotely successful run, you'd have to go all the way back to 2016-17 season under Keith Hill. I think he was the last manager to be able to get a run of 6 to 7 games together. He's the last manager to do that, and given our current situation and where we were finding ourselves on the pitch, put that sort of run together to steer us out of harm's way. It's not happened, and there's poor decisions been made regarding management. Jim is now in charge for the final few games of the season, which seems incredibly unlikely that we will be able to save our league status, which is harrowing in itself, really, for most Dale fans. We're unprecedented times, something that we've not been used to as a club or ever experienced, or me personally never thought I would experience. I always never even contemplated the idea of relegation to the National League. I always thought we'd be that well-run, stable League Two club at the very, very minimum, but it's not bared any fruit, and it's not happened. And I suppose all we've got to do now is, as a fan base, is stick behind Jim McNulty for the final 8 games, and fingers crossed. Hopefully, we can pull off some sort of a miracle, albeit very unlikely. Next up, the board. Where do you even start with this whole situation? It's nobody's fools to it. Everyone knows what's been going on with the club the past few years. The whole saga with the Morton House, prior to that, David Bottomley, and the running of the football club in dangerous hands. It was dangerous times to be a supporter of this club, and for a long part of it, we feared for the safety and the future of the football club. These gentlemen came in, Simon Gage being the chairman of the board, came in and started to run the football club. Worked tirelessly to try and save the football club, and in the end they managed to fend off Morton House and all that they stood for. Don't even want to think about what they were going to try and do with the football club. But there has been a lot of naivety, although I'm very, very grateful for what Simon and co have done for the football club to keep us afloat, because I don't think we'll ever fully know what's the extent of the damage that was caused prior and is being caused now. We probably will never be privy to that, but more decisions have been made this season. Say, touching back to the naivety surrounding the fan pressure regarding Stockdale, and they maybe should have held the resolve a bit more, stuck with him a bit longer to let him have his identity on the team, regardless of what fans thought, including myself. Maybe they should have again looked at it in the summer. He should have been out of job. A fresh person could have come in with a new set of ideals. The whole Bentley saga, fifth choice manager, not the guy who in the end that you can, in hindsight, you would say you wanted running the football club. It's been tough for them. As much as I do say, they were incredibly helpful in staving off the bad times around the club. We look in peril again. Recent reports seem that we're looking for outside investment after trying to push a fan-owned agenda model with the club, which I think was a bad move from the board. A club the size of Rochdale, we don't draw the crowds, and it's a model that works on sustainability. But as I say, the fact that the attendances that we draw in on a match day, especially at the moment, probably aren't enough for it to ever be a successful model with a club like Rochdale, and they now are looking into investment opportunities outside of the fan-owned model. It will be something that I think will be interesting, because I think it's very much a poison chalice is Rochdale. Most people will want something, investors I'm talking about, will want something returned for the money and the services to the club. Maybe this should have been something that had been put in place from the get-go, but as I say, through all that, the dealing of the management side of things has been poor. Another point to highlight on the board as well is they were always very vocal in somewhat better times. But complete silence now. That things are not going as they should, and I think as a board you should be there through the good and the bad, accessible to fans, and communicate clearly with people. I mean, obviously we've seen a little bit more communication the past day or so, and I think fans they do appreciate that, but certainly mistakes have been made. Just reading through the statement a bit, looking at it, there was a few points that did irk me with it, such as the matter of basically that this defeatist mentality, basically resigning us to the fact that we virtually are already relegated. As much as I think it as a fan, I don't think in a position of power such as the board should be coming out and saying something like that just yet, whilst there's games to be played still. You never know what can happen in football, but to me, think about what mindset that puts onto the players at the end of the day. If the board are saying it's virtually over, what do you think the players are going to think? Do you think that they're not going to go out there and give it 110% if they think they can get away with it? To me, I think it was a poor move on that front. Also, diving a little bit more into it, obviously I'm not going to get into all the nitty gritty of the statement. They were talking about they'd hired an agency to review the running of the football club, looking into all the analytics side of it, academy pathway, recruitment, management, and reviewing all these policies again. To me, rookie error, without being too harsh. As much as I am so grateful for what they did with the football club, we should have probably been looking at someone to take over in the initial straight future after David Bottomley, with someone who had a bit of a nous of an experience of knowing how to run a football club. And that's ultimately not their fault. They have jumped in at the deep end, and as I say again, we are incredibly grateful for that, but mistakes have been made, and fans now will not be as a whole, I believe, as tolerant of it all as maybe they once would have been. So yeah, as I say, mistakes have been made and things need to be looked on and seriously reviewed going into next season to give us our best possible chance of a return to the Football League at the earliest opportunity. Just touching as well before I finish as well, a point to highlight with that as well, which is slightly concerning. Looking at the investment side of things, they obviously are looking for investment, but if nothing comes in the next year or so, I think we're in a dire situation. If we aren't able to find any further investment for the club, they've basically outlined the fact that once the parachute payments run out at the end of the season and the sponsorship deals and etc., if nothing's there after all that, you could be looking at the certain closure and folding of Rochdale Football Club, and I don't think any of us want that. This is the club we all love as fans. We spend our hard-earned money every match day to be there and watch the boys as much as we can. Amazing pastime for so many people. I think the next steps really are crucial. Moving on to my final point about everything regarding this season, the recruitment side of things, they have been poor if you look at it on a whole. I know we have touched on the players prior as well at other points as well through other videos, but on the pitch it's just not happened at all, and I don't know what to put that down to, because I think if you look at the squad on paper, I don't think it's a squad that's as poor as where it is. I think it's, touching back into management a little bit, I think it's about finding that right manager, that right recruitment, that I think possibly a lot of these players need an arm around the shoulder kind of manager, but just with the right balance, because I think, you look at Bentley, I think Bentley's very much a screamer and a shouter, that kind of management style, which is maybe a little bit archaic now in this day and age, maybe doesn't respond as well as it would do 10, 15 years ago. But then you look at Stockdale, never previously managed before, kind of obviously a baptism of fire for him coming into his first job as a manager. But he's obviously the completely other end of the spectrum, and I think we need to find somewhere a happy medium for the players. This day and age, you probably need a bit of best of both worlds, really. But certainly the players on the pitch have given me an attitude that they 9/10 of them have given me an attitude that they don't really care. They're not really interested in the fight for this club. They don't know what it means to us as fans. I hope they do. I hope they get it. I hope they can somehow pull off a miraculous recovery. But at present, there's been nothing shown to me consistently enough to believe going forward that they will do that. It's damning times. You look on Saturday, for example. I've got to highlight him, Ethan Ebanks-Landell. Said it before, he kicked the ball out of play 20 odd times under no pressure, nobody around him, completely lackadaisical attitude. He's falling over and sliding over, and the player's running past him, and he sat there on the floor not bothering to get up. Just a complete attitude of, I don't care, I'm here for my money, and that's that. That's not what we want as fans. Obviously no one wants that as a fan. But play for Rochdale, you really, really need to know what it means to play for Rochdale. And ultimately, I just don't think these players have got it. So come the summer, I think that, like I say, the whole recruitment process needs to be vigorously assessed again, looked at properly, and find the right type of mould of players that are going to come into this football club and give 110%. I'm not going to completely, boo-hoo everyone, as there has been a few performers this season that I have been happy with. But it has been a bit too little too late almost, and the ones who have been brought in done well are mainly Bentley's signings, but it's just inconsistent enough on the pitch. As I say, it is something that I think we do need to look at seriously going into next season, regardless of what league that will be, most likely National League. But the club, the players need a revamp top to bottom. Well, that wasn't a video I really enjoyed to record, to be honest. A lot of raw emotion. I care so much about this club and I am very passionate about it. I hope you did enjoy the video, and if you do, please like and subscribe. See us next time for some more content. Up the Dale. Hopefully it gets a bit better soon.